Join our psychedelic smoke sesh as we explore exciting new dimensions of existence, thought, and possibility.
We'll take you out of this world and blaze through infinite realms, while occasionally forgetting what we were saying.
This is Higher Consciousness. Hello!
What's up?
And welcome back to Higher Consciousness Season 4, Episode 2. We know what the episodes and the seasons are now this time.
Sometimes
I do.
Sometimes we remember, sometimes we don't.
Sometimes we don't. It happens. So
not a big deal.
if you're listening, thank you so much for listening on our podcast. Be sure to subscribe whatever streaming service you're listening on. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe here. And you can find all the links of where you can follow us on higher-consciousness-talk.com, where you can get our Insta, where you can get our Facebook, and you can get all of the exclusive information that Dave is giving out about his show, The Mushroom Menagerie, happening Friday
tomorrow.
And Saturday, June 25th and June 26th. So tomorrow night,
As we record this, it will be tomorrow night, June 25th. And then into June 26th, Saturday night, because I can't just do it one night. I got to do it 2 nights. Well, originally the plan was to do it in the backyard here at our humbled abode. But, you know, hurricanes and tropical storms be like raging and causing all kinds of havoc in the weather. And
raining straight for a week.
Dude, it was like I was watching the forecast for the last couple of weeks. And it was totally fine for a while. And then, like a week or 2 ago, I just started watching it. And I was like, oh no, it's starting to call for rain on Saturday. Oh no, it's starting to call for rain on both Friday and Saturday. Oh no, it's going to be raining from Friday till Monday. Oh no, it's going to rain from Friday until next Saturday.
Just keeps getting extended.
Every day it was just like rain.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, come on, man.
We need apparently we need the cleanse.
But, you know, everything happens for a reason. It's going to go off regardless. We're going to do a virtual indoor event. Unfortunately, I can't really get everybody out for the show that was going to come because we don't really have the space indoors for that. Plus, I don't really think people are going to want to be traveling during a torrential downpour.
Yeah, no, I don't blame them. I don't like
we're just going to do a good old-fashioned COVID-style event. And,
it's funny because you said it's not because of COVID you can't do your event. Yeah. It's like the weather, and it's like the irony.
It's a virtual event due to the weather, not because of COVID. But it still should be fun. You know, we're gonna I'm gonna put all the artwork up on the walls. We're gonna. Are you?
There's dust on the table.
Spit? Are you?
There's dust on the
table.
It was bugging me and I couldn't wait, so I figured while you were talking that would be a good time to get it clear.
So yeah, virtual art show tomorrow night and Saturday night. You can watch on Facebook from 9 to 10, or you can watch on Instagram Live from 10 to 11. My page, if you don't follow it already, is Dave Swartz Art, SWARTZ. So
there'll be a spelling test at the end.
Yes. Can you spell my last name?
Yeah, and then we'll give you a real quiz and ask you if you can spell my last name.
Oh, God. I barely can pass that quiz. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
making other people spell it. Anyways.
Well, you know.
What are we talking about today, Lynn?
We're talking about time.
Oh, it's about time.
It's about time we talked about time.
Yeah, it's
It was just divine timing for us to talk about this time and this time and in this time and moment.
Everything happens for a reason, and everything happens at the right time.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
So yeah, we've been talking about trying to get more science-y kind of topics into our higher consciousness discussions because we went a little, I think, too far into the...
I don't think we went too far.
Well, I think we spent a lot of time in the spiritual arena. So I just want to kind of bring her back around and talk about some more
we like the spiritual
scientific things. You know, because, well, you like the spiritual arena.
So do you.
I do, but I also enjoy the scientific side because
I know.
to me there's a lot of very fascinating things about science that glean more information that's even more profound about reality. So, anyways, we should probably invoke Mary Jane before we discuss any further about such subjects.
Yes, we should. So today we are not smoking Better Brothers.
It's like a combo. It's like
It
we
is?
had a
Oh,
we had a little
I
bit
didn't.
in there, like a tiny little bit left over, and then we had to bombard it with other stuff
To fill it in.
that shall remain nameless.
Yeah.
Because I'm embarrassed. But it's
That's
okay.
so great.
Sometimes you go through lulls in your stash, man, where you gotta be like, oh, I gotta wait like another couple days before I get that good stuff. You know?
Yeah. But you gotta just work with what you got.
That's right.
And it's all about that gratitude.
Anyways.
So we're gonna be using my lovely bong. I'm very happy and proud of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's got 10 four-leaf clovers on it. Okay. I'm just very happy about that.
Your witchy little laughs.
Yes, because I am a witch. I'll get you, my pretties. Anyway,
Wow.
let's go into the blessing.
My lord, lady. My lord, lady.
Oh, that was great. That was fun. Everyone else is probably
I'm
like
a little terrified.
Probably not.
That's all right.
That's
Go
all
ahead.
right. So anyway, let's take a deep breath. We're gonna cleanse the space with my higher consciousness bundle here too, while I'm remembering.
Like a Foley artist.
Just to a what?
Foley artist. It's like a sound effects artist.
Oh, okay.
Like create sound effects for movies and stuff. So like take a deep breath.
Sounds so scary.
Or like door creak open.
Wow. Well, I don't want to have that door. That sounds like
I'm just saying,
that.
that would be terrifying.
Yeah.
If your doors
Oh, my
creak
door's
like
burping.
human burps. Just like.
Okay, we haven't even smoked yet. Okay,
Yeah, I know.
we haven't even blessed it yet.
God help us all.
Okay. I like a good. I know it's
I like
fine, but
good
I
fire.
like a good smoke.
Oh, good smoke.
So let's go ahead and clear the space and kind of get ready into walking into this higher state of consciousness, or smoking our way into this higher state of consciousness.
Smoking our way.
Clear away any doubts, fear, stress, negativity, so we can be present in this time and in this moment. Beautiful.
Oh my God.
Very happy. I love how this smells. It just smells like us. I feel like if we were a scent, this is kind of what I feel like we would kind of smell like.
That's
kind of. Well, I would
that's
say a little more spicy.
This
This is the more chill version of this is the higher conscious version of us.
I would
Okay.
say you're spicy.
I am
but
spicy.
That's of your Spanish lineage. So
Well, it's not just because of that too, but you know,
other such reasons.
other reasons too. All right, ready? Bless you, Mary Jane, and thank you for being with us today. May you help us communicate our thoughts and our words clearly and concisely when we're talking about time. May we open the hearts and the minds and the perspectives of those who are listening and or watching. May we ride the ride of wherever you take us and go with it at ease. And may we have fun and have a dope time. And thank you for being here again. We love you and we thank you. So dope it be. So dope it be. Yes. All right.
Should be like
I'll
some
go
kind
first.
of religious chant. So dope it be.
So dope it be.
Some shit like that. I don't know. It'd be funny.
Like the Hallelujah chorus, but so dope it be the whole time. So dope it be. So dope it be. So dope it be. So dope it be.
We'll
So
do that while I'm
dope
drinking.
it.
We'll do that while I'm drinking. How dare you? So time.
You didn't expect me to do that.
No, I did not. I wasn't expecting it.
I sung the Hallelujah chorus, fun fact, many years
Fun
ago.
facts.
The many. Oh,
Oh,
why?
Stupid
Why does
thing.
somebody always want to call me right in the middle of us doing an episode?
I don't
This
know.
is not the time.
Go away.
Decline.
You stop it.
Bye.
It's even worse because we're using your computer too.
I know, so everything
this other
picked
track.
up. Well,
and
the universe says it's time to start talking about
yeah,
time.
Get your shit together.
All right, you
Boys,
go first, so I can
girls.
do this.
So time. As we've stated on multiple occasions on this show, time is a freaking illusion.
Yes.
It may be one of our most complex illusions in order to create our reality. You know, I believe the scientific theory about time is that time is the fourth dimension, but I'm not entirely sure if that's true.
I remember when we were watching
Fully.
Matias de Stefano on Gaia that the fourth dimension was also the time dimension, and he had also was expressing because he was expressing that this was the dimension where we, if I remember correctly, a lot of where our dreams come from, or it's more of the internal, more of the ethereal kind of spaces and more the ethereal kind of dimensions where they're a little bit more complex.
Interesting.
But I remember something about being like in a dream and like time and something about time and space. So I'll have to watch it again.
Well, it is interesting because, like, you know, when you're in a dream, time does does seem to be quite fluid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you're sort of moving from one state of being to the next, not entirely sure how you got to where you're at. And I feel like that's a lot of what it must be like to traverse through time as if it was a space. Mm-hmm. You know, to go
Inception's a good example.
Yeah, so it's difficult for you to almost understand where you arrived and or how you arrived and where you're going next, and
it's all like tethered together.
Yeah, I mean, that must be so surreal, you know.
It's a little disassociative.
Well, very disassociative. Yeah, exactly. But no, time has always been fascinating to me, you know, because, you know, obviously science fiction plays around with the concept of time travel, being able to travel back in time and adjust things then to make changes in the present.
Oh my God, we see that so much in so many movies and shows.
But it's like, is it the concept of one linear timeline in which you can traverse, and if you go back and make changes, you're changing just that one line. So, or you're changing all of time. So it's as if when you make that change in the past, that the life that you once lived doesn't actually exist anymore because you've made changes that then when you come back to it is totally different.
Yeah.
And that to me is difficult to wrap your head around, because it's like, well, what if you went back in time, like the whole, you know, killing your grandfather thought experiment. Like if you went back in time and killed your grandfather, would you then just completely dematerialize and not exist, like Back to the Future style?
Yeah.
Right? When he was just disappearing.
I was thinking about that the whole time you were talking about that. I kept thinking about the Back to the Future, because that was very much the whole concept of the...
Right. Not that there is a multi-dimensional expression of time where if you say were to go back in time and change something and came back to your present, you could still come back to your present. You know, you would just possibly make an adjustment to a different timeline that then branches off from that moment in which you changed, creating a different present. So you would have the possibility of going and traveling to that new outcome, that new future potentiality. But you still, I believe, would have the potential to come back to your moment in time that you left unchanged by the past that you have gone back and changed. Wow, that's a lot of mindfuckery.
I know. I was trying to like sit there and like make sure I was like, okay,
I know I go down the rabbit hole pretty quick, don't I?
Well, you know, I like the rabbit hole. It's kind of fun.
I like the rabbit hole. Silence.
Well, I just feel like that's where a lot of things, you know, it reminds me of Alice in Wonderland, like going down the rabbit hole, you know, where things don't make sense. But no, that's a really interesting way of looking at it, because we do often think of things being very linear, and I think we...
Linear.
Yeah, and, you know, it's logical to do that, and it makes sense because...
Do you like lip gloss on or something?
I have chapstick
I was
on.
gonna say, goddamn. There's like a glossy sheen on the top of that thing that was like,
Well-
what is this? Is this weed or?
Is this weed?
Well, I couldn't tell if it was like residue from the weed or like what the F it was.
That's funny.
It's
Oh
rather
my goodness.
strange.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, we
What was
get we work in a linear time because our world functions in this 3D world. You know, the linear time concept was created, I think, in order for us to be able to work. Like, I feel like that's like the whole, not just like work, but I feel like work is pretty much like the main reason. But then, you know, we also have time here on planet being determined by when the sun, moon,
We got time on planet.
oh yeah, time on this planet
Sorry.
being determined by, you know, the sun and the moon. So when the sun rises, we know it's a new day, it's a morning. And then when the moon rises, we know it's nighttime, it's a new night. And so humans have learned how to kind of measure it almost linearly based off of, I feel, because of the sun and the moon and because of us, you know, being able to needing to work and like those in power needing
to communicate to one another, really.
Yeah.
You know, like how do we relate to one another if not for some kind of common understanding
of what time
of
is.
reality, right?
Right.
Right.
That's really what it is, an understanding of a reality.
Right.
Ooh, I like that.
Well, think about it, like
time is an understanding
ancient
of a
culture.
reality, a universal, interesting. But even then it's not universal.
Well, I would imagine
sorry.
like ancient culture, you know, they would need time in order to be able to not only position themselves within reality, but also I think they need it to communicate for a collective endeavor. So if, say, they needed to attain food, or they needed to create a bridge, or they needed to, you know, whatever the F it may be.
Yep.
You know, we need a collective understanding of when are we going to start?
Yeah.
When are we going to end?
When
You know?
when are these things gonna happen?
Right. So I think, and again, it evolves from there, because then those who want to work more are going to want to try to, you know, get us to use more of our time to work, versus those who would prefer not to break our backs trying to, you know, produce every minute of every single day. So, you know, I feel like we have still yet to figure out how to truly free ourselves from this this feeling that we're trapped within the clock, right? Because I think a lot of people feel trapped by the clock.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean
Anyways.
the clock. I mean, look, thinking about how many stressful moments you had because of the clock.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, even going back to being a kid, you know,
Yeah.
you look at the clock and you're just like, when's it gonna be time for lunch? Or, when's it gonna be time for school to be over?
Well, then that's why, like, you know, being present in the moment is always really great, because when
Right.
you're present, you
You're
know,
not
you're not focused on the
lamenting.
time. Yeah, you're not lamenting. You're not, like, looking at, you know, what you could have been a part of or what you were supposed to, or whatever the case may be. You're just present in the moment. And time, you know, having that linear time perspective does kind of, I think, bound us in a way. But we are bound by time here because of the sun and the moon. And because
Just
of...
because of the sun and the moon?
No, and also our
If
aging.
we blew up the sun and the moon, would be free of time. Well, we would be dead, so. Hey, excuse you.
Yeah, so...
Excuse you, young lady. How dare you claw up our carpet? My goodness.
Every show, they always make it through. Even if they're not on the show.
Just, you know.
Well, yeah,
clawing up the
because
carpet.
if we don't have the sun and the moon, yeah, we would be dead. But I think time would still, in a way, exist, even if we are dead. Because, like, think about spirit and how we can communicate with those who have passed down, or energies that are passed on. Time
It's
can't, you know, just because you
a
die doesn't mean
different
time dies.
experience of time, a
It
different
is.
relationship.
It's more
with
like in the
time.
dream world. Like, I would suspect that being a spirit is like existing in a time that is like being in the dream constantly.
Right. You're popping in and out of different existences, not really entirely within a linear fashion, but more of a spontaneous eruption of happenstance. So, you know, depending on what you want to manifest, what you want to experience, what you're in need of experiencing, that's what I feel like kind of drives you at that point, right? And you're not bound by time and space. So you can kind of just be like, well, if I need to enjoy, or if I need to know more about this, or I need to experience more of this or learn more about this, I can kind of just pop in, because who's to say that a future, here's a wild thought, what's to say that a future version of yourself that's already dead is a spirit guide that is helping to shape your life in the present moment now? Whoa, that's freaking wild, bro. Like, wouldn't that be what? Because it's like you have a higher self, right? That's always with you. That's always present, and you can, tap into. But couldn't there be also another part of you that is a spirit guide per se? That's a future version of you. Maybe it's not even the future version of you that is you. Maybe it's like some wild, extra dimensional version of you that's coming through because you need its energy or something like that for some reason.
Yeah, actually, I have a guide that's like that.
You have a guide that's your future self, and you didn't tell me?
It was my past self, actually.
Your past self?
One of my past selves.
Well, that could... I mean, I always assumed that spirit guides were almost like your past selves, like your collection of all of your past lives, like together.
Oh, yeah. Well, past self and future. So you were talking in future tense. I guess I missed that part.
Future.
So you're talking about future spirit guide.
Yeah.
See, I'm not aware of a future spirit guide that I'm not aware. I'm not aware of them yet. That doesn't mean that they don't exist. But I think, isn't that the whole point of us being here, is to connect higher and higher to our higher selves? But that higher self lives in a different dimension, and it's about integrating those dimensions on this 3D dimension.
Yeah, it's possible.
I would say.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what I'm thinking.
It's kind of what.
It's kind of what I feel, for me at least.
Like, this is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, just in case you didn't know.
Ridiculous. No, but true. Time is a very kind of fickle, fluid thing that can be bent in and manipulated in ways that I don't think we quite yet grasp.
Yeah,
because I think a lot of us are still very much tethered to the concept of time needing to be past, present, and future.
Yeah.
And not really accepting of the fact that the moment is all that there is.
Yeah.
I was just talking about this.
It's the past, present, and future at the same time all the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's really what it is, and I think that, honestly, I was talking earlier today in our Wake and Bake about how I feel as though I need to have more awareness of my mood within the moment and not, be so trapped by that, to recognize that the moment itself is ever changing. So, there's going to be a future moment that's very different than this moment. And there's been many past moments that are very different than the current moment. So, I don't have to be so distraught and burdened by the energy of what could be, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what I think a lot of us do, is we focus so much on future outcomes that aren't actually happening yet, but you make happen more if you give them more conscious energy. That's a dangerous game.
Yeah. What you fuel is what, will be made manifest. And that's like one part of manifestation that I think is important, is like the time concept. Like when you're manifesting as if you already have it, but then also letting go of the timing that it may take to actually receive it. But knowing that there's a future part of you that's existing right now in this present moment, and you're just aligning yourself to that present or that future moment. And it's about healing certain things, or it's about just walking the path, or it's about it could be a combination of other things too.
Such a wild concept to think about.
Yeah.
Like the fact that there is a future version of yourself playing out future events right now, in this moment, and then in this moment, and then in this moment, and then in this moment.
Yep. And then this one, and then next,
and so many more.
Yeah.
It's wild. I remember, I can't remember who said it, but somebody said, if we something along the lines of, if we truly could grasp the, complexity, or the mind-blowing sort of like complexity of who we are and where we are within the cosmos, it would just like drive us insane, because like there's just
even thinking about it, my mind hurts.
there's just so much like
Just kind of
out there that our three-dimensional brains, I think, can't quite compute, right? It's like trying to, we don't have quantum computers yet. We're working on it. But a lot of people, I think a lot of our best people have said we're like a decade or more away from quantum computing, right? And it's because there's certain limitations,
What
right?
is quantum computing for those people who
Oh
don't
man,
know what
I'm
that
gonna
is?
fuck this up. I'm just gonna tell you
Just
right
do-
now.
just
I'm
do
gonna
your
fuck
best.
this up
Just
so
do your
bad.
best.
I have no idea, really. Well, here's the thing: is I have a basic idea. I think.
I was just saying, like, come on, you have to know something.
Yeah, I have a basic idea.
What's the basic idea then?
From what I understand, like quantum computing would make it so that a lot of, because everything that exists in a quantum state is sort of non-locational, so it doesn't necessarily have like a physical location. It can kind of just bounce around.
Okay.
And actually it can exist within like two places at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So within quantum computing, the idea that I thought, or the thing that kind of emerged in my mind when I first started thinking about the concept, was how we could, essentially make it so that it's incredibly secure. It's like an incredibly secure network where it would be very difficult for hackers to be able to get, nail down specific information, because it would be constantly like on the move. It would never be like nailed down to like a server or to like a localized, area
So what
or
does
location.
that mean for us?
It just makes our computing not only safer, but it also makes it that much more faster, because we're not as burdened by physical things, because quantum computing takes into account, I think, a lot more like non-physical, traditional methods of computing. So yeah, it's a little out there, and again, I've butchered the explanation of it, I'm sure, but it's the next level of computing that is just going to take a lot of yeah, seriously, it will take a lot of what we do now to the next level, because
for sure,
it's going to take a lot of problems because a lot of scientists, especially like scientists that are working on space problems that are very big and vast in scale,
space problems.
like
I love that,
like
that's
astrologers
even a thing.
and scientists at NASA, they use supercomputers to be able to crunch the numbers faster so that they can arrive at theories faster, right? It would take mathematicians and scientists that
fun.
much longer to be able to come up with a theory with evidence without the use of supercomputers. And quantum computing will just make that even faster and will propel us even further in our knowledge of space-time and all the things that we're talking about here. So,
Wow.
but I don't think you necessarily, even though we've talked a lot about science, and this is a very sciencey kind of subject, there's spiritual ways of connecting. Yeah, but there's spiritual ways of connecting to it that
I think
are different.
Spirit and science falls into every topic and subject we've discussed. But I think what you're trying to say is that this has been discussed more from a scientific perspective.
Well, yeah, time has always been something that scientists have been trying to understand more about, because it is such a limiting part of our experience.
Mm-hmm. The aging process, that's time.
Yeah.
Our biological time, our biological clock,
Mm-hmm.
and then if you're a woman, you have different biological clocks.
And just how we relate to the rest of existence, of reality.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't even talked about the theories of time where, like, as you travel faster, time tends to slow. And it's like this weird phenomenon, where as you get closer to the speed of light, things tend to just slow down. It's insane. But then in other parts of the cosmos, it's like, I believe it's like time around you slows, but like in other parts of the cosmos, like time speeds up to the like maximum. So like that movie, was it not Inception? It was the other Interstellar, Christopher Nolan movie where they were like traveling through space, but at the speed of light. So like when they spent time on a planet that was light years away, you know, every hour on that planet was like 5 years back on Earth or something like that.
Yeah.
So what the F?
Yeah, but it was only like 10 or, you know, a few hours.
Right. So like this guy quite literally just like spent maybe a couple of hours or something like that out in space and went through like a black hole and, well, I don't want to spoil the movie. We haven't seen it, but like,
it's interesting,
you know,
though,
just
that
messing
like, he
around
was
with
able
time
to
is amazing.
Well, because it almost seems like time is like an environmental thing, because in that concept, think about how many times we've seen that concept play out, but the body itself generally doesn't change unless you're in a place that's bound by that time. So it's interesting that he could be away for 5 years on an Earth planet when he's on, you know, but when he goes to Earth, maybe it will catch up to him, or maybe it won't be that way, because now he is reassigned his timing and his biological time to the planet Earth. So I feel like, and then it's just interesting to think, like, do you understand what I'm saying?
No,
Like,
I was sitting here like, I'm not
okay,
quite sure I follow
so,
that.
all right, imagine let's say I'm traveling to space. Let's say I'm visiting the star Electra. That's 444 light years away in the Pleiadian cluster.
Okay, I trust you on that one. I don't know my Pleiadian cluster very well, so.
So let's just say, like, up there, 2 or 4 hours is like 2 years here.
Yeah.
And so by me being up there, I am now bound by that space and time because of the environment that I am in, the environment that the timing exists in, the dimension of time that
Sure.
that planet Electra lives in.
Sure.
And so, you know, we've seen a lot of people travel and go into these planets into like other movies, but then go on to another planet and they don't age at all. So is aging something that is bound by the time and the environment that you're in?
I think aging is relative to the
'Cause,
time
like,
in
you
which
don't-
you're existing.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You
Because
know?
like when you go back to Earth, so even though it's been 2 years, what if I go back to Earth and I don't gain those 2 years?
No, you don't.
And it's because I now am in a new environment, tethering myself to a new time and space.
Right.
But then as soon as I leave that environment, I put myself in a new time and space. And who's to say that we don't already do that on this planet by the environments that we currently create? Like, think about it. Like, think about the environment that we live in now compared to an environments that we lived in before, and think about our growth compared to the environment we have now versus then. So even like that works in a simple time and space just in this life.
So are you saying is... Wait. So I quite didn't follow that last thought. So are you saying that there are examples of that even here on Earth?
Yes.
If we were to what?
The environment.
So
I think
if
the
I were
environment and time go together very well.
But I would have to be traveling at a great distance, or I'm sorry, at a great speed, in order to really mimic that same kind of...
But who's to say you're not but I'm saying like traveling that speed consciously. Like,
I feel like we're...
Physically, maybe not. Like, physically, your body's still attached to this 3D reality.
I'm just having so much deja vu right now, because I feel like we had a similar conversation last night. We talked about space. When you're like, if you could move your consciousness, though, through space.
Well, no. Think about it. Like, the fact that we're living here on this planet, right? So I'm talking about, like, we can still exist in our 3D dimensional bodies and still be able to manipulate time through existing in different states of consciousness, but they're also reinforced by the environments that we are in, because the environments also have a connection to time.
So are you saying when you move your consciousness through your subconscious, or
when you're just growing your conscious beyond, I would say, when you're just growing your consciousness, like,
so when you're evolving your consciousness in the present, you're
you're also expediting your time. And you're expediting the time that it takes for things to come to you, the time that it takes for things to happen.
All right.
Like, think about it. Like,
all right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was like starting to get it. Yeah, I guess
it's really hard to explain.
In that direction. I was trying to understand it from more of like a physical perspective, and you were talking.
But it is a physical perspective. But it's more physical in the way of like, it's your physical body is the same, and it may require some physical like changes for oneself in order to achieve these things. But I'm thinking more consciously on an energetic level, on like a mental space, from a consciousness space.
So what you're saying is that if you were to work on evolving your consciousness to higher and higher levels of awareness and personal kind of,
and you have an environment
perspective, and your environment is supportive of such
that
things,
time of that of who
you will propel your consciousness and yourself further along faster through your conscious development, because and it won't take as much time.
Right, because you're able to align,
just so I can wrap
manipulate
my own brain
of how long it takes for things to take to come to you.
That took so much longer than I thought it was going to
so
take for me to
longer.
understand. Because I just didn't understand where you were going for it.
I know, I had a really hard time explaining it. Even like when I was doing it, I'm like, But like, do you know what? Do you get what I mean now by like how I was trying to say that time and environment have a connection with one another? That if you're in an environment, because think about it, an environment that I would say is loving and supportive, that's going to help push time, I think, faster in a way. Not I don't want to say like it's just faster, because it's going to do the opposite too. But I think when you're in an environment, or when you're evolving your consciousness and you're growing your consciousness, and let's say you're trying to manifest, and you understand that you exist in the past, in the present, and in the future at the same time, every single moment that there is, and then you put yourself in that vibration, but then you also have an environment that is supportive of that vibration, and then therefore it attracts things to you much faster in order for you to evolve faster and for you to achieve the things that you want and to grow much quicker.
See, and I guess in
and then
ways,
that translates into a physical
right. Well, now that we're on
evolution.
This conversation of physical consciousness or consciousness evolution through time, I've always had issue with the concept of like free will and fate, and this idea that like things happen for a reason and everything happens for a reason, and in that way one could assume that if everything happens for a reason, that those reasons are to push you along a particular path. One would maybe even say a fate line, right? So is it so much that we can have conscious free will in our own development to push our consciousness further and faster along our conscious development, cosmologically? Or is it just, there are certain things that push us at the right moments, in the right time, in that, place, that ultimately make us do the things that we need to do to create all the things that we need to create, to then ultimately find ourselves in that time, in that moment, in that place that we inevitably are fated to be. That's a paradoxical mind effery that I still quite am not sure if I can wrap my own brain around just yet.
Well, I definitely think more of the second one, because I don't think it's always about getting there faster or slower, but I think it is about aligning yourself, because at the end, I think the free will comes in, because I think fate...
That's a whole nother episode right there. We
Fate
should talk
and time.
about free will.
Well, I think here's the thing, is like, I think the free will part comes in when we're talking about time. At the end of the day, if something's fated, it's going to happen no matter what and how you get there. But I think the free will comes in because we have the choice to choose how we're going to get there.
So much weed today.
Yeah, I know, we've had a lot of weed today. But then, you know, there are times where the universe, there's divine timing that plays, and sometimes things get ripped away from you, and it is like one of those things where you do have free will to choose how you're going to respond and react to it, but sometimes you can't necessarily control the things that are happening for you, and it's because of maybe divine timing. Maybe something was getting prepared for you. And so I do believe that divine timing is definitely a thing, and that's something that I think I would say is fated or written in our soul contracts, is something that we could see in the stars, and not necessarily something that we can control. And that's, I think, something that can be bound by time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, certain things happen at a certain time. Like there's a web for a reason, and every part of that web, I think, interacts with all the other webs. It might be really far, but there might be certain, like, you know, when, you know, having to hit the button at the right time, because when you hit the button at the right time, if you're a second off, it, you know, blows off everything else, and it doesn't make everything else work. It's almost like that in a way.
Yeah. Man, I had something to contribute, and now I totally lost it.
That's okay. That tends to happen.
Listening to you got me off on another thought, because I was like, oh, that's a good idea. Damn, I can't think of it. Shit. Sorry.
Well, one thing I would like, so we were talking about divine timing.
I know.
So I don't know. I believe that divine timing, no matter, you know, it's interesting how there's different times that exist. Because there's divine timing, then there's our physical time. Like, you know, divine timing probably didn't decide on Thursday at 3:00 this thing was going to happen and really blow and open up the world for Dave and Liz.
That was the thing that I wanted to contribute to add to the conversation, because I'm sure there's people out there that in some ways have felt this way too. So, you know, like one of the things that I connected to, and I've connected to, you know, a lot previous, but I guess haven't quite acknowledged it and been vocal about it, is this idea that like there is a part of me that truly wants to like fail, and like truly wants to basically watch my life burn and basically sit there and be like, I fucking told you so. I fucking told you you are making all the wrong decisions and you fucked everything up. Like I feel that, like I hear that.
Thanks for being vulnerable to share something like that.
Well, on it, it's very true, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that feel similar.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot, and some of it comes from that idea of fate, of things being destined. You know, because I've had so many tarot readings where I have talked with people, not even tarot readings, not just tarot readings, but even other readings too, past life readings, other kinds of astronomical, you know, readings of my chart, where it basically says like, you know, you're an important dude, like you're very important, like there's a lot of like power and strength and, you know, things that you could contribute to the world, and, you know, all you got to do is get out of your own way and you'll find all the abundance in the world that you want. And it's like, because that's like almost in a way fated for me, it like gives more fuel to that voice to be like, know what, fuck you, you know, like I am not going to be told like what my future is going to be. Like
that's
I'm going
to choice though.
But that's like that feeling though, that feeling that like fuels that voice. That's just like, you know what, like fate is one of those things that I think the ego really fights hard against, because the ego wants to be in control and it doesn't want to be told that this is the outcome, that this is what's going to happen.
Because eventually you can't, like, fate is not something you can escape. So eventually it's going to happen in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
It's just like, if it is truly fated, and it could come through in a way that maybe isn't as pleasant if you know, and that's where the free will, I think, part comes in, is like, you know what you're, you know, meant to have. We all know. We all can, I think, feel that deep within us, what we're meant to have, what's our birthright, the things that we feel called to. And I think it's like, I think we all want to be abundant. I think we truly, at the end of the day, it's not that we don't I think we just want to feel safe and loved and secure.
I think
That's,
honestly,
I think, essentially like all we want.
Most people who, I mean, I guess I can't say this for a fact, but I feel as though most people who lash out or who are angry or depressed or, you know, commit acts of violence, I think they are just in need of love and they're in need of support. You know, it's honestly all it really is.
Yeah.
And it might be difficult for them to attain it because there might be, you know, something that's blocking them from it.
Right.
But it's not impossible.
Exactly. And, you know,
nothing's really impossible. It's just difficult.
So, but there's also divine timing in, you know, the realizations for the things that are fated. So maybe there was a lesson or something that needed to be worked through or something that needed to be overcome in order for the fate to really truly align with you. Because I think that's also the other thing about fate is like aligning yourself to that time, you know, in that dimension. Because I feel like oftentimes fate is like a higher dimensional existence.
That is an interesting concept.
Time.
The fact, that
it's just
fate
a different
is just
time consciously.
Fate is just an existence apart from time and space. You know, like you if you pull back from the limitations of time and space, could you not then just see the eventuality of all existence? And in that way, that is like the realm of fate. You know, I've actually talked with a friend of mine who is another intuitive like you. And, you know, she's told me on multiple occasions that she has, you know, future sight. Like she can just see 10 years into her future and just sort of see how things are going to kind of like line up in ways that propel her in the direction she feels as though she's being pushed to go. Because there's a lot of things in her life that she loves, but she never would have pursued otherwise if not for this divine sort of intervention.
Right.
You know?
Same here.
So.
Like, fuck, I never ever imagined me doing a podcast like this. I never even imagined me smoking weed.
I never doing fucking abstract paintings. Like,
yeah. I never imagined reading tarot. I never imagined like reading but at the same time there was there was a part of me that always did like feel that in some level.
Even when I was 8 years old reading the Bible.
Well, it was just the environment it wasn't the right time because it wasn't the right environment.
Sure.
I really think because gosh, now that like makes me think of like now that I've had that epiphany, I'm gonna like really think about that a little bit more and really kind of dive into that. What?
Epiphany?
I didn't say that.
I know, but it's just funny to me.
I was just like, wait, I didn't.
When you said epiphany, it was like the first thing that popped in my head was Tiffany, and I was like, oh, Tiffany. That's funny.
Tiffany.
That'd be something that Hillary from Fresh Prince would have said. She would have came in. I've had an epiphany. I swear, I could just hear her say it.
She does so well with that character.
It's very good.
I love Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
It's
a
funny.
great time. It's a time capsule of the 90s. Yeah. That's for sure. Which is another 90s, thing that we should talk about.
That show.
Yeah.
90s? Just have a 90s?
No,
episode?
not just at the 90s. No, about how that fits more into my environment thing about how we can, like, for example, look at an image or look at a video or look at something and be able to associate a time with it.
Oh yeah,
like a date. You know, it's how like I mean that's essentially.
Oh, that's from the 90s.
That's our linear way of.
That's a lamp.
Our linear way of keeping track of time, essentially, and that's what's for our environments as well.
Well, that also reminded me of remember that.
Damn, that's so good. Sorry, I was just thinking. I was just like, why haven't I had this thought before? Divine timing.
That was like a James Brown moment. God dang! Good call.
Sorry, it just like took over me. I was just like in my mind, like, yeah, Liz, like.
No, I was just thinking about that thought I had a while back
so proud.
about how maybe time periods in and of themselves have like a consciousness. So like, what if like the 20s itself is a consciousness? What if the 30s is a consciousness? What if so on and so forth?
It kind of is if you think about it that way.
Like that consciousness in and of itself is beyond its time. It can travel to other time periods, right? Because we see all kinds of influences of those past decades on our current culture. So is that not an invocation of those time periods just now? Right? And then maybe there's an amalgamation of those different styles and different influences creating a new style and influence that then is solidified into this now time. Like, I remember I was in the high school and I graduated college in the early 2000s. So much of my like comings up years was in that period of time. I mean, my childhood was the 90s. I would say boy teen into manhood was in the early 2000s. So that time period when I lived it was like looking back on previous time periods, I was like, I don't know how they're going to quantify the 2000s. And I look back on it like,
it makes sense. Yeah,
like you could just see in like the way people dressed and the technology, it was just very specific to that time period. And you can tell the difference between that time period and even like the 2010s, like all those years in between. And now we're getting into the 2020s. So I'm sure there's going to be a new...
we'll be able to look back at the 2020s.
Psychedelic. I hope it's a rainbow psychedelic explosion.
It will be. It will be. I really think it will. This is going to be the time that I think that psychedelics are finally going to, have that break. Well, because Mary Jane, she's been like the leader of psychedelics and being the leader of plant medicine because we're finally... because she's the pioneer. But I mean, she's always been here. I think she's always been number one. But I feel like, we have had... things unfortunately take that away because I think they knew that it opens up your consciousness, it opens up your mind, and so they wanted to control the time that they're in. And I also think the consciousness itself, honestly, I really think we just weren't ready for it.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I just think consciously we weren't ready for I think many of us were, but I feel like, and I think many of us are and have been, but I feel like it's those empowered consciously haven't been ready for it because there's always been a fear of them losing power. And I feel like that because we're gaining more power, and even though many of us have had to do these things in secret, we're still opening up our consciousness. We're still having power. People are starting to regain the power. And I think the bigger people are noticing that. And, the right people, the right leaders are working with us in order to progress. Because saying it's like, it's 2021. Like, it's fucking time that, we let go of these stupid laws. It's fucking time that, we allow the LGBTQ to have, full rights like every other human being on this planet. All of those kinds of things. It's time because the main consciousness has been working on growing. It's just, I think, those in power who have been trying to block these things, they're running out of time.
I personally think it's the fact that I personally believe there are less and less people on the planet that are interested in power. I think that I think for so long, the ego within all of us has been so
we're healing.
So distracted and so consumed with the idea of control and power that we look to other people that have control and power, celebrities, politicians, whatever it may be, artists, musicians, we look to them as almost in ways like modern deities, because modern gods, because they have autonomy, they have total control over their own domain. Not only that, but they have influence over others. And I think a lot of people are craving for the first one, and really I think many of us that have allowed our egos to run amok crave the second, crave that autonomy over other people, and I think a lot of us, myself included, are starting to come around to this concept of the ego is not a good master, it is a good tool. So to allow your ego to drive you to this endless pursuit of power and control over one's life, I think is ultimately futile, because you're going to wind up in a place like everyone else, where you've lost control. You time and time again, you feel confused and frustrated, and you just don't know how to get out of it. So if you can take your ego out of the equation and just sort of see things for what they are, give people love and support, including yourself, I mean, that's a pretty simple recipe for success. And I say that with with my own angst, because it's hard for me to even listen to that advice at times. Life's a bitch at times, and it can truly challenge you, and challenge that thought, challenge that feeling inside you. But truth is truth.
That's right, baby. That's right. Well,
So,
well, this has been a great time.
good times.
Good time.
Great old
About time. I'm pretty happy about how this conversation went. How about you?
I'm pretty good with it as well. Yes, I'm a little less enthused with that construction noise going on outside that just started.
Of course, it's like
moving.
it knows it's time.
It's moving.
It's at near the end of the show.
Yeah, you only got a couple minutes left.
Yeah. So.
Anyways, oh wow, that's loud. Anyway, last thing that we'll say for this time episode is that again, we need to focus much more on our present moments.
Yes.
And if you can hold more gratitude for the moment, my God, it sounds like someone is outside literally sawing down our house. Like they sound like they're just like walking outside.
But like
our house,
a baby saw. Not like a big saw.
Yeah,
like
I'm gonna
baby
get
saw.
this house. No, but I think if we could all just take our ego out of it and approach things with a little more humility and perspective, I think we'll all be a little better off.
I was gonna say it stopped when you had mentioned it, but yes and no, I agree. I agree with you. We would all be better off
Thank
too
you
for that.
Appreciate that.
I was
All
just
right.
noticing that it stopped right when you started to, right after you had mentioned.
Speak my truth,
Yeah,
and
right
the
after
universe will comply.
Yes.
So, anyways, I believe this is it for episode 2 of season 4 of Higher
Out into
Consciousness.
space.
We went from space into time.
Yeah.
And then time into other interesting topics. We've got 2 more for you this season. Before
We should just tell them so they can look forward to it.
What are they, Liz? Tell them.
Light and energy.
Yes, we're going to talk about light and we're going to talk about energy, because
Yes. they
are very important and powerful aspects of creation. So, we're going to talk about, I don't know, we decided what we're going to talk about next week.
Creating your face.
Happening. I think we should talk about energy first, and then
Energy and then light?
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. That sounds good.
Because everything is energy, and then we can figure out how light comes into the equation. Yeah. So, anyways.
I love this. Okay, so thank you so much for listening and or watching. If you're listening onto our podcast, thank you very much. Please sure you're subscribed to wherever you're listening to so you can stay up to date with us.
That is true.
Yes, and if you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe and comment down below. Let us know what you
please
thought.
do.
And don't forget to go to our website, higher-consciousness-talk.com, to get the links to our Instagram and our Facebook and any other information like your show.
Yeah, we got an
And
events page now.
Yeah,
so you
we
can
have
check
the
out our
events
events
page.
page where we have my
website's
show.
a little bit more about us too.
I have to update it now that I realize, because I haven't linked to the event for the physical in-person show, which I've since canceled. So I have to relink it to the new Facebook Live event, but I'm going to do that after the show.
Yeah.
But anyway, again, we have a virtual version of my psychedelic art show that's going to be happening tomorrow night, Friday night, June 25th, on Facebook from 9 to 10 and from 10 to 11 on Instagram. I'm going to do that again on Saturday night, June 26th. So if you guys aren't able to watch live on Friday night and you want to watch Saturday night, I'm going to do it on Saturday night as well.
Or you can come both nights because he's going to be making stuff
Or you
both
can
nights.
come both nights,
so.
yeah, because each night I'm going to be working on different pieces during the show. So we're going to kind of just walk through the house. We're going to take a look at a bunch of different of my paintings that I've been working on for the last couple months, as well as watching me make art live for a little while. So,
It'll be a great time.
yeah, it should be fun.
Yes.
So and then when the weather decides to not rain for
We'll have a
7 or 8
physical show.
days straight, I'm gonna have a physical show again here at some point because there's just not quite anything like seeing these things in person. Online is just nothing compared to seeing them in person. So, and I bought like $300 worth of lights. So come on now, weather, get it together.
That's okay. They'll be used in our home. So
Yeah, that's true.
anyway, thank you so much. We love you, and we'll see you and talk to you next time.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Listen to more Higher Consciousness every Thursday on Spotify at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.